Okay, good afternoon to you all. My name is Nana Brandt, and I'm the Policy Manager for the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. This afternoon, Baji, alongside the National Immigration Law Center and a DocuBlack Network, will be engaging in conversation on the 6-month extension of TPS for Haitian nationals that was granted this Monday by Homeland Security Secretary Kelly. So we have several folks that will be speaking today, providing insight and information needed for our Haitian kinfolk and the larger immigrant community to move forward in the fight for redesignation. So today we're going to start with Patrick Pierre. Patrick Pierre arrived in the United States from Haiti in 1986 at the age of 8 to live with his sister. As a child, Patrick did not know anything about immigration or his status, and it was only when he graduated from high school in 1995 and started looking for jobs that he realized that he was undocumented. As far as back as his childhood in Haiti, Patrick's dream was always to be a writer and creator of theater, television, and films. Patrick eventually saved enough money to self-produce his first short film in 2005, and then filmed his first feature film, The City Is Mine, in 2008, which was accepted into several film festivals. After the Haitian earthquake in 2010, Patrick obtained temporary protected status, which has allowed him to come out of the shadows to work and move freely in the U.S. Patrick is also the primary source of income for his mother, grandmother, sister, and nephew back in Haiti. Patrick says, Haitians are not different than everyday working Americans. We value family. I know anyone who is a human being can relate to a mother in need, a sister in need. So I can say that TPS, even though it is temporary, it does a great deal to helping families out. So feel free to start, Patrick.
Yes. Basically, everything that was just said right now is my story. And, I came legally in the U.S. In New York, JFK. I was received by my sister. And it's basically, I came on a visitor's visa, 5 years visa. And so, the visa eventually expired, which I didn't realize that, I needed to file for permanent residency so that way I could stay. I started to realize this when I was older, and then so I tried to work and I couldn't work. So eventually, I did end up, meeting with some people in order to like find a work and everything like that. So I was undocumented, for a while until TPS happened, and then so once that happened, I was able to gain the TPS and basically, work. I was able to move to California and get a driver's license and get some production assistant jobs. And then, so basically, once the TPS, happened, it really helped me a lot as far as personally, because I felt that for the longest time I was in the shadows. I couldn't tell people that, it's basically, I was just embarrassed about it. So after TPS happened, which I was able to get my working papers, and I was able to move around and things like that. So I thought personally it really helped me. It also helped my family as well because, I was able to work more jobs and send them more money. And as far as it allowed me to apply for travelers documents, so I'm able to go and see them. I haven't yet because, I was nervous about it, but, I spoke with some lawyers and they said as long as, I don't have a criminal record and or I'm not in proceedings for anything, I should be able to go back and travel. So and as far as professionally, after I get into TPS really helped me a lot as far as, before TPS, I was at this one job where, I was there for almost 12 years because, after 9/11 happened, they changed the laws as far as needing certain documents to apply for driver's license or any other, employment So the job I was at, I was there before the laws passed, so I was able to stay at that job. But I was kind of like, I couldn't really go anywhere, so I had to remain at that job. So which was in New Jersey, and I knew I wanted to pursue my filmmaking career. So after the TPS happened, I was able to get the papers, then travel to California, and get some production assistant jobs at some major studios where I was able to sharpen my skills as a filmmaker. And then so since then, I've written like a few other scripts where currently right now they're making the festival contest round, and I feel positive that I think I'm gonna win like a few festivals with the writing. And then it's basically, ever since I moved to California, I feel that, I'm a better filmmaker and writer in general because I was able to meet people in the industry to mentor me and things like that. And the only way I was able to do that is because of the TPS, because I was able to leave New Jersey and, and because of that. So I feel that really helped me professionally. And then it's all connected because, if I become a better filmmaker and my career takes off, I feel that I can help my family a lot more, as far as financially. And then, and I think because currently right now, I have two jobs where, the jobs already give me notice that, if the TPS is not renewed, they're going to have to let me go. That was before I found out about the 6 months renewal. So now at least, I have a little breathing room. 6 months is not that long, but at least, it gives me time to figure out what to do. So I'm still nervous about it because in 6 months, I'm not sure what I'm going to do because, if I'm not able to work at those two jobs that I currently have right now, then I won't be able to, pay rent or send money to my family in Haiti. And then I already spoke with them, and they already know as far as, it'd be a bad idea to try and come back to Haiti if I get deported because there's no jobs over there. And the situation, is still bad. The situation was bad before the earthquake. So imagine, how worse it got after the earthquake. So, it's real tough over there, and it'll be real hard for them and for me as well if I'm not able to, stay in the U.S. and continue to work, and help them out and as far as continue to build my career. So after the 6 months extension, I won't be able to work or, get a driver's license again. And it's kind of like my personal life and my career is just going to be put on hold. So I'm not sure, what to do. And also, too, it's not just, I know I'm not the only one who's in this situation. So I know in general, there's a lot of Haitians who's in my situation, some, with either different stories or similar stories. And I know, they're probably in the same situation I am as far as, they're not sure what they're going to do after the 6 months or, how they'll be able to help their family out. Because, even though I left Haiti when I was young, I know how tough it is over there because I remember at times where I would go to sleep hungry, things like that. So I told myself, once I'm able to, I want to make sure, I help my family as much as I could. So that way, won't go hungry. So it's going to be tough, to try and figure out, what to do in that at 6 months. So I'm hoping, by me speaking and what, everyone is doing, that it'll help not only me, but just, every Haitian who's in my situation and try and help them out. So, yeah, so, yeah, so that's really it, and just right now I'm just, I'm nervous, about the 6 months extension. So I'm not sure what to do, honestly. So, I'm just like speaking and and just hoping I could figure something out. So yeah, I know I skipped a few things, but that's all I have for now.
So thank you so much for sharing that with us and just really just painting for folks what it is to live with TPS, knowing that there is amount of movement that you're able to make and things that come with this, even though it's temporary. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I know that it was probably pretty, some intimate things to talk about in terms of like coming out of the shadows and what that means, and also being a provider for your family back home in Haiti. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I want to speak, or we're going to have next speaking Deborah, who is a part of Undocu Black Network along with Patrick Pierre, which is the first network to focus specifically on undocumented Black immigrants in the United States. Deborah Alimu is an Ethiopian but was raised in and currently lives in Austin, Texas. She enjoys reading about working class justice and about the death of neoliberalism. I hear that. And she loves ice cream during all seasons and is currently helping Undocu Black Network with membership outreach.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Nana. And can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so a little bit of information on the Undocu Black Network. We are a multi-generational network of undocumented Black people, and we foster kinships, facilitate access to resources, and contribute to transforming the realities of our people so we are able to live our best and fullest lives. And it's through Undocu Black that we've been able to hear from folks like Patrick whose lives are constantly in limbo, and who can relate to each other based on the inequity we keep finding in the system, all the roadblocks that we keep seeing for ourselves and our members and our community at large. A little bit of background about Haitian TPS is that about 58,000 Haitians in the United States have TPS. Most of these folks live in Florida, New York, and New Jersey. We also know that renewing TPS for Haitian migrants is not only an immigrant issue, but a racial justice issue and an economic issue, a human rights issue. And it's really important now more than ever for all communities to stand behind Haitians, because Haitians are not the only ones who have received TPS. There's other communities, West African communities, Central American communities who also benefit from TPS. So we fear that this whole 6-month extension versus the 18-month regular extension could really set a precedent for the other folks, for the other communities. I had mentioned just a bit ago about this being a racial justice issue and an economic justice issue. And the reason is because we see that when USCIS had leaked emails showing that they were digging for information about public benefits and what potential crimes had been committed by Haitian TPS holders. We saw in that attempt their tendency to rely on criminalization of Blackness and poverty. That's why we have to keep reiterating this is not just about immigrants immigrating. This is about a larger issue faced by the global working class. And by looking into things like use of public benefits or crimes committed, we're seeing this unfair targeting of Black people, Black immigrants in this scenario, by USCIS and the larger Trump administration. So that's obviously concerning for Undocu Black Network. NILC and Undocu Black Network were able to file a FOIA request asking for all records from multiple agencies regarding what information they're using to make this determination, to say that they're looking into criminal records, etc. We're interested in seeing what avenues they've taken to obtain that information, and see which of that has been illegal. We also want to keep pressing on that this is not, Haitian TPS didn't come about just because of the 2010 earthquake. There are more than one environmental, political, health, and social crises compounded that have resulted in like a great exodus of Haitians outside of Haiti. And so the more we're able to tell a fuller narrative, then the more we can push for. If the understanding is that stability has been reached, which is not true, but if that's the common understanding, if that's the common narrative, then the types of relief we're going to see will be far more limited. So we hope to really expand the conversation and talk about the cholera outbreak imposed by the United Nations of all entities, talking about the political crisis and the impact of Western nations on Haiti's stability historically and to this day is really necessary to have a good concept of why we have to protect folks who migrate here from Haiti and other countries for these reasons, and to ensure that they have protection from deportation. Ben, if you could jump to the slide that says UBN connects to, okay, thank you so much. So one way we plan on expanding this narrative is by finding creative ways to tell the story of our diaspora. And UBN once again have partnered to create some videos that we hope to have out for y'all in a couple of weeks. Videos will incorporate some political education along with personal stories of Undocu Black members, one of which was Patrick, who y'all just heard from. We're also committed to, fighting deportations and doing an intake process where we have on hand necessary information of our membership, so that should something pop off, should they be detained by ICE or other law enforcement, we have prepared folks with like the proper steps to take. They know their rights, and we have information to be able to help them.
Deborah, I hate to cut you off, but you're going in and out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is this any better, or?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, my apologies, folks. I'm not sure what was heard and what wasn't heard, but I'll just continue to say that Undocu Black Network is committing to fighting deportations and also equipping our membership with resources to avoid deportation altogether. We also want all of our accomplices, our ally organizations, to sort of put resources and energy and brainstorming work behind calls for relief from deportation, work permits, because these are the things that help our people survive day to day. They're not long-term solutions, but given the literal life and death scenario that a lot of folks are facing, that is, I think, the current state of undocumented Black immigrants' needs. And yeah, so I think I already mentioned expanding the understanding of why Haitian immigrants are migrating to the U.S. and other countries and seeking relief. So I think that's all I have. I can pass the mic. Thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. That was really appreciated in terms of like just painting the context into why folks are migrating from Haiti to the United States, and also focusing more on really halting deportation, right? And recognizing that while it's good to engage in conversation and do work around citizenship, one of the things that our people really need is we need a stop to mass detention and stop to mass deportation. And I really thank you for highlighting that. We're going to move forward now to our next speaker, Ms. Loide Georges. So with over a decade of experience within the immigration legal arena, Loide Georges brings a wealth of hands-on experience, dedication, and integrity to her practice. A graduate of American University, Washington College of Law, Ms. Georges states, "My mission is to provide my clients with a safe space, providing honest and thorough legal counsel." Ms. Georges also brings a personal touch to her practice. Having immigrated to the U.S. as a child with her family, she credits the honest and kind-hearted pro bono attorneys who helped her family successfully navigate their immigration issues as one of her inspirations to provide the same quality of service within her practice. Ms. Georges is an active member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, D.C. chapter, and is former chair and vice chair on Washington, D.C. Mayor Bowser's Commission on African Affairs. Ms. Georges also lobbied for the particular interest of African immigrants on Capitol Hill. She frequently appears on television and radio programs addressing the African diaspora immigrants' unique perspectives, and she regularly partners with faith and community-based organizations to conduct free immigration legal workshops. So you can take it away.
Hi, everyone. So this is Loida. And I'm just going to give a brief overview of TPS. More specifically, if you are currently a Haitian national and you have TPS, what it looks like now that it's been designated to be extended for a brief period of time. So again, this is about folks that already have TPS, who are Haitian nationals in specific, and what this new announcement really means in a practical sense. So for what it's worth, it's a brief extension. Typically, we see extensions for 12 months up to 18 months. This one is only 6 months, and it is up for reconsideration for extension closer towards the end of the new designated time frame. Let me be a bit more direct. So the 6-month extension will be through January 22nd, 2018. So that, again, that's not a lot of time. And in between now and then, there are certain things that have to be done if you actually want to take advantage of that. More specifically, you've got to actually re-register. And so for those folks right now who are Haitian nationals who have TPS, they have to re-register their TPS status no later than July 24th, 2017. And to be on the safe side, that means filing it so that it's in the Department of Homeland Security's hands by that date, not that it's postmarked by that date. Sometimes there's a little wiggle room if you file a few days late, but rather than play with fire, that you want to make sure that you actually re-register with your applications reaching DHS by the cutoff date. So again, even though the TPS designation has been extended until January 22nd, 2018, for you to actually avail yourself of any benefits from that, you have to re-register no later than July 24, 2017. So what does re-registration look like? You're literally just doing the same thing that you did when you initially applied, which is filing a Form I-821, which is the application for temporary protected status. And you will also file an I-765, which is an application for employment authorization. The one difference is, as a re-registrant, you don't have to pay the Form I-821 filing fee. Now, the work permit, if you want to have an actual new work permit in your hands, you would have to pay the work permit application filing fee. If you don't need a new work permit in your hands, you still want to fill out that form and submit it along with your I-821, but you don't have to pay a fee. Now, this is critical for individuals where their employers want to see the physical card in their hands. Some employers who are savvy or prudent enough and deal with TPS folks often enough will recognize that if you re-register and you've got a receipt notice in your hands, that's good enough proof that your status under TPS has been extended. Others actually want to see a card, and that's where you'll want to pay the filing fee, which right now is $410 plus $85 for the biometrics fee, so that's $495. So let me move backwards a little bit because I'm throwing out a lot of info. So for folks who are wanting to re-register for TPS, the forms that you're filing right now are the I-821. It is the same exact form that was filed previously. You know, if you're still in TPS from when Haiti was first designated, that means you've filed or re-registered several times. So the process is the exact same. You file the I-821 along with the I-765, and the I-765 is the application for employment authorization. And if you want to have a physical card in your hands, then you do have to pay the filing fee for the work permit, and that's $495. If you, by chance, are having any financial difficulties, you can also file a Form I-912, which is a request for fee waiver, and submit a written request where you establish that you are financially unable to pay the filing fee. There are requirements for what that looks like, what they need to see, but there is an option for individuals that are financially compromised and not able to pay the $495. So then you submit all these applications. Again, it's the I-821, which is the application for temporary protected status, the Form I-765, which is the application for employment authorization, along with a filing fee if you want the card in your hands. And if you want the card in your hands, but you don't have money and you're able to establish that you don't have the funds, whether you're unemployed or just don't make enough money according to what the government threshold level is, then you would file also the Form I-912, which is a request for fee waiver. You submit all of this, and then typically within a week to 2 weeks of filing, you'll get a receipt notice in the mail. And that receipt notice can be used for several, well, I shouldn't say several. That receipt notice is then used for proof that you timely filed, as well as proof that your status as a TPS recipient has been extended. So it sounds a little counterintuitive because typically when you file something, you have to actually show proof that you have it approved before you can reap the benefits. But for the sake of employment, you can show your receipt notice at the very least that your permission to work has been extended. Now, ultimately, what really makes the difference is the decision that comes down the pike. Now, the decision will be approved, a decision on your TPS extension will be approved if everything is the same in your life. But if you've been committing crimes, that can jeopardize your application. If you've left the United States without permission, that could jeopardize your application. If you have, for one reason or another, filed fraudulent applications to immigration and that's caught up with you, that could jeopardize your application. But typically what we usually see jeopardizing people's TPS re-registration is if they've committed any crimes and or if they've left the United States without permission, and or if one way or another it's been revealed that false information was given or submitted for the underlying or the initial TPS status. Now, that's just one end of the discussion. The next end of the discussion is, okay, what happens after 6 months? Because again, 6 months is not a long time. And we, in this very moment, don't know if Secretary Kelly, after he reevaluates things within 60 days of January 22, if he will designate Haiti for TPS again. Now, in the instance that TPS is not continued, then the law is pretty black and white. Your status just goes back to whatever it was prior to. So if you were undocumented, you'll be undocumented again. So if you're trying to explore what your options could look like if TPS is not extended past January 22, 2018, I would suggest that now is a wonderful time to sit down with an attorney and or an accredited legal service provider. And that's because a lot of times people don't seek options or to understand what their options are until it's, at the 11th hour. And then at that time, maybe something that could have been sorted out in a more timely fashion won't be able to be sorted out because you're waiting until the last minute. And or if there are no options and it's time for you to consider moving back home, you'll have that much more time to prepare for that transition if you explore what life could look like if TPS is not extended. Now, in trying to figure out who to talk to, it's critical that people understand that they should seek legal advice from people who actually know what they're talking about. The immigrant population is probably one of the more vulnerable populations that need and seek legal advice. And so that means that there are going to be individuals, unscrupulous individuals, that will prey upon your ignorance or desperation to give you bad advice that could very possibly jeopardize options in the present and or the future, expose you to a fast track to being removed from the country, and or just a whole, bunch of wasted money. So in trying to figure out who to talk to, there are several tools that you could use. Executive Office for Immigration Review. And it's a link that includes recognized organizations and accredited representatives for every state and territory of the United States. So it's a very awesome tool. You just click on a state. So let's just say you live in Virginia. You click on Virginia and it actually will pull up all the legal service providers in Virginia. Now, a legal service provider ranges from law schools that have law clinics that service individuals that may not have the money to hire a private attorney, or community-based organizations that use funding to actually service the local immigration population. And all of these different organizations have actually gone through BIA, which is the Board of Immigration of Appeals, training to be able to provide legal services to the public. And it's a way to ensure that you're getting quality service even if you're not in a context of paying a private attorney. Now, of course, if you want to hire a private attorney, you still have to do your homework, because not every private attorney is a good attorney, and or not everybody who says they're an attorney is really an attorney. So I encourage folks, if they're trying to figure out either how to re-register, if you don't know how to re-register, use this link to access service providers in your immediate city and state, to schedule a time to walk in and have them walk you through building your re-registration application. Or if you want to meet with a private attorney, again, do your homework. And doing your homework means using the internet. If you've got names that are handed to you via referral, use the internet to just Google the person, see if they have any complaints against them. Give them a call, ask them some basic information about what services they provide and if they handle TPS, and or if they handle your type of immigration issue, which would be somebody that's not documented wanting to explore possible, if any, options to go from undocumented to documented. Now, to be frank, if you're undocumented, your options may be very limited. But again, the person that could sort that out is somebody who actually understands the law. So you don't want to go to a notario or an immigration consultant or, for instance, a CPA, an accountant. I'm naming the types of professionals or individuals who sometimes present themselves as attorneys and or legal experts and end up giving very bad and wrong information. You also want to make sure that the person that you're hiring is actually an attorney. So even though they're telling you they're an attorney, you know, they very well could have graduated with a degree, but they may not be licensed. And so these are critical questions to ask. I'm trying to stuff in a lot in 10 minutes. Nana, have I reached my 10 minutes?
Take about one more minute.
Okay. So the key with what I'm saying is, if you've got TPS right now, you still have options. You do have a deadline to re-register. You want to be mindful and actually heed that deadline, and that is July 24, 2017. There are 3 forms that you fill out. Those forms include the I-821. It includes, and the I-821 is the application for temporary protected status, includes the I-765, which is the application for employment authorization, which comes with a fee of $495 if you want your card, your work permit card in your hand. Otherwise, if you don't want the work permit in your hand, you just fill out the application. You just don't need to submit it with a fee. If you want the work permit in your hands and you do not have $495 and you're able to establish to the government's satisfaction that you should be granted a fee waiver, then you also want to fill out a form I-92. If you are not sure of how to do this all on your own, please use the link that gives you a guide or a map to find and select an accredited legal service representative in your immediate area that can do this for you at low to no cost. If you choose an attorney, a private attorney to assist you, make sure you do your homework and that you're dealing with somebody that's competent, that's licensed to practice, and is going to be honest and ethical with you, as well as experienced, because you perhaps may have options that you were not aware of prior to getting TPS. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. These breakdowns are extremely necessary considering the fact that legal language can be very esoteric and inaccessible for most folks, so we really appreciate you chiming in and providing that information. Before we go on to the next speaker, I just wanted to let folks know that since last September, the Black Alliance for Just Immigration has had a Haitian Immigrant Strategy Working Group, and we're going to be convening the strategies call for groups and allies in early June, so you should be on the lookout for that. We'll put that on the website, blackalliance.org, as well as our social media, which is @BajiTweet. But moving forward, I want to now take us to Joshua Stilick. So Joshua Stilick engages in policy advocacy, strategic litigation, technical assistance, and community education focused on enforcing and expanding the workplace rights of low-wage immigrant workers. Prior to joining NILC, which is the National Immigration Law Center, Mr. Stilick served as a supervising attorney at Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles County, where for over 10 years he represented low-wage workers in a variety of wage and hour cases, unemployment insurance benefit appeals, and criminal record expungement proceedings to enhance employability. In that capacity, he also coordinated and supervised 3 weekly worker rights self-help legal clinics that assisted nearly 2,000 low-wage workers each year. Mr. Stilick holds a Juris Doctor degree from Yale Law School. So take it away.
Thank you, and hello everybody. Thank you so much to Baji and to the UndocuBlack Network for inviting me and inviting NILC to be part of this important webinar. Ben, can you advance the slide? And again. So this information may overlap a bit with Luide's, but I'm going to talk specifically about workplace rights as a TPS holder. So the first question is, will my EAD, which stands for Employment Authorization Document or Work Permit, be automatically extended? And as the previous speaker already explained, if you currently have a Haiti TPS-based work permit, you can have it extended to January 18, 2018 if you currently have a work permit as a Haitian TPS holder. If you re-register for TPS during the 60-day re-registration period, and as part of that re-registration, you file an application for an EAD using the form I-765 during the 60-day re-registration period. So I want to note that USCIS's use of the term automatic in this context can be a little misleading. It's not automatic in the sense that your work authorization is automatically extended if you fail to follow the steps that I just laid out. But if you do file to re-register for TPS, and as part of that you apply to renew your work permit during the 60-day re-registration period, then your work authorization will be automatically extended, assuming you remain eligible for TPS. And note, you should file your re-registration, including your work permit or EAD renewal application, as early as possible during the 60-day re-registration period to avoid any lapse in your work authorization. Next slide, please. So if you are hired for a new job, what documents would you have to show your employer for the I-9 form? And the I-9 form is the employment eligibility verification form that your new employer should ask you to fill out within 3 days of starting a new job. And as part of that process, you fill out the form, and then you have to show one or more documents to prove your identity and your work authorization, and that's one or more documents from a list of acceptable documents for the I-9 form. And the choice is yours as to which document or documents to present from the acceptable list for the I-9 form. The employer can't dictate or tell you which identity or other documents the employer wants to see. You get to choose from the list of acceptable documents. And an EAD or a work permit is what's called a List A document, which means it proves both your identity and your work authorization. And so if you currently have a work permit based on TPS as a Haitian national, and you file an EAD or work permit renewal application during the re-registration period, you may show your expired EAD to your new employer along with the notice of action that you'll receive after you have applied to re-register as proof of your identity and work authorization for employment purposes. So in most cases, just that notice of action wouldn't be enough to show that you remain work authorized. But in this context of an extension of TPS, your existing EAD plus the notice of action that you receive when you re-register is enough. You don't need to have a new EAD card to show your employer. That's why the previous speaker talked about your options when you re-register and apply for a new EAD, whether you want to pay the EAD fee to receive a new card or not. However, you may need to explain to an employer who's not familiar with TPS holders that your EAD has automatically been extended through January 18th, 2018 when you show them your existing EAD and your notice of action. And all of this info is spelled out on the USCIS website, which again, if you're dealing with an employer who may not be familiar with TPS, it may be helpful to print out that information to show the employer if the employer is questioning your expired EAD and notice of action. And we will include a link to that USCIS informational page in the follow-up email to this webinar. Next slide, please. Now, if you're currently employed and your EAD is set to expire, your current employer will likely ask you about your continued work authorization on or before your current expiration date. And much like with a new hire, if you filed an EAD renewal application as part of your re-registration, you can show that receipt notice or notice of action that you receive to your employer along with your existing EAD to prove that your work authorization has been extended through January 18th, 2018. And your employer cannot, under federal law, require any other documentation from you. They can't demand, for example, that you show your proof of Haitian citizenship or proof of re-registration of TPS. Under federal law, your EAD, your expired EAD, and your notice of action that you receive from re-registering is sufficient to prove your ongoing eligibility to work. And so if your employer refuses to accept that or you face any other problems from your employer as a result, you can call the Immigrant and Employee Rights Worker Hotline, which I've listed there. And this is the office that was formerly known as the Office of Special Counsel for Immigration-Related Unfair Employment Practices. It's a division or a office of the Department of Justice that enforces the anti-discrimination provisions of federal immigration law. And so this is a worker hotline for workers whose employers are refusing to accept valid I-9 documents such as your current EAD and a notice of action that you've received from re-registering. And we'll include a link to the Immigrant and Employee Rights Worker Hotline webpage in the follow-up email to this webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Greatly appreciate that and the work that NOC does as well. Once again, adding on to this information in terms of your rights when in the workplace, which is very essential because oftentimes we find that our community members don't always know the ins and outs of what's happening. So I just want to, we'll be ending off talking about continued mobilization and advocacy, and I'll be taking that on. As I stated, my name is Brandt, and I'm the policy manager for the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. Just a bit about me. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. metro area to West African immigrants. I'm currently a doctoral student at the University of Maryland, College Park, where I also teach courses on equity, inclusion, and diversity, focusing largely on immigrant students, which is the focus of my dissertation, Black immigrant students in particular, and the ways we address their needs within K through 12, but also higher ed. So that's an overview. I just wanted to focus in now on community engagement and the ways in which working within and alongside the Haitian community, we're able to engage in political advocacy and action. Give me 1 second. Okay, thank you for that, Ben. So as we're all aware of, the current administration's stance on immigration is just largely grounded in fear-mongering, racism, xenophobia, anti-Blackness as well, which we consider that and think through that as we think about the ways in which the DHS went on a hunt to gather information on Haitian nationals that had convicted crimes, right? Because there's a way in which we present immigrants already as this criminal element that needs to be removed, and adding Blackness in terms of racial identity to that sort of depicted these or our Haitian kinfolk as threats to public safety. And there's a lot of this going on in terms of the terminology used on the Hill by politicians as well, in terms of painting the immigrant in this nation as a threat to public safety and a threat to economic growth and prosperity. So we all know this to be untrue. So now more than ever, I think it's important for us to work within and across communities to ensure our livelihood and safety is maintained throughout this administration. And I think one of the ways to do this is to find out more about what's being done in your city, your district, your state, and even on a nationwide level. Like, who is and who isn't engaging our communities, and who is engaging around this conversation around TPS. On the slide, you'll see a number of different organizations that I listed out that have been doing work, some that are Haitian-centered, others like the organization that I'm from, BAJI, which focuses on Black immigrants across the board. We also have a lot of different Central American organizations that are doing work as well. CARECEN, which is a Central American Research Center, or Resource Center, which has been doing work as well, talking about TPS as it impacts their nations as well, their nationals as well. You want to be aware of the work that they're doing. And I find that social media is one of a really good starting place to figure out, well, who's doing what, and what are the ways in which I can be active and contribute to the work that's being done, right? What are the services that are provided by these organizations? Who are their allies? Who do they do work with? One of the cool things about Twitter is that you'll often see, you're able to see whom an organization is following, and also they have, typically you'll find organizations that have different lists of allies, right? So you can see, well, maybe I'm based in Washington, D.C., but I want to find out more about what's happening in New York. So looking through these lists, looking through what folks are doing, looking through the rhetoric that's posted on their websites and also their social media to just find out where you get in and fit in terms of the work that's being done. Because I also want us to engage in this conversation about reciprocity. We're able to learn from each other and help each other as well. Moving along in respect to time, Ben, if you could go to the next slide. I think one of the good things too about learning more about these organizations, they can also help you in terms of shaping and learning more about, shaping your political voice and learning more about what's going on in the Hill in particular. It's incredibly important to be mindful and aware of all the things that are occurring in DC, as Donald Trump is he's not alone in his anti-immigrant sentiments. He's not alone in very racist, xenophobic rhetoric. You know, we're thankful for, and it's good that folks have been focused in on the executive orders, and we're thankful that today we had good news in which the Fourth Circuit Court ruled that the travel ban was unconstitutional. But it's also good to be mindful of what's happening in the House and in the Senate. And in that, I just listed out a few things that I want folks to be mindful of. So it's good to know different bills that are being proposed in the House and how they're advancing. And one of the tools that I use is govtrack.us because it gives you a good breakdown of different bills, and you can look at them by category. So focus on education, immigration, law enforcement, as all of these things impact our communities. And you also want to look through and see who your congressional members are, and I gave a link for that as well, and learn more about, well, what are they voting for, or what are they talking about? How are they advocating for my community and voicing my concerns? It's important for us to engage with work, not only with organizations, but activists as well and community members, so that we're able to identify problematic bills, problematic politicians who are allies, and working with allies to figure out the best ways to engage with the government to ensure that our voices are heard. I also want folks to know that feel free to, or feel that they are able to contact these folks. You can call congressional members. You can call the Department of Homeland Security. You can call an embassy and voice your concerns and issues with what's going on in the nation, and this is very much the time to do so. I just wanted to sort of leave us with key bills that I want folks to pay attention to. So there's HR 1014, which is the Haiti Emergency Relief Act of 2017, which was sponsored by Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, which was very much showing the continued allyship that Yvette Clarke has with the immigrant community, and in particular the Black immigrant community. As if this act was to pass the House and the Senate and be approved, this would enact or redesignate TPS for Haiti for 18 months. But the three bills that you see in red, HR 2431, HR 2406, and HR 2407, are currently going through committee here in DC in the House. And voting on these bills are definitely going to fall along party lines, but I want us to be mindful of what these bills can bring. They would expand mass detention and deportation at levels that we haven't seen before. This would really be expanding the grounds of deportability and making it less, or drastically reducing the means of authorized immigration in this nation. And also hidden within this this HR 2431, there's a way in which TPS would almost become non-existent, as Congress and the President would have to approve for TPS status for different nations. So it's important to be just mindful of what's going on in your locality, but also throughout your state and at the national level. Using social media and just using the internet in general to research who's doing what, being tapped into different action alerts, being tapped into social media actions and different things like that that are going on. So you can use the tools that you have, work alongside the folks that are in partnership and in community with you, so for us to push forward and really continue on this fight for an equitable immigration system in the nation. So with that, I've gone a bit over time, but I want to open up for questions, for at least 2 to 3 questions before we close out. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm reading them right now. Give 1 second. So there was one question, do you think that info is likely to come in before the 6-month extension is up? This could be posed to all the folks on the line in terms of if we're thinking that DHS will give more information in terms of the fate of TPS for Haitians moving forward.
Yeah, I could answer that. So typically this is Lloyda George, typically they provide that information within 60 days of the expiration. If you take note of what just happened, we didn't know until 2 days ago that it would be extended till January. So with that said, even though there's a 60-day window period, that doesn't mean that they're going to give you a heads up 60 days in advance. What it means is they can make a decision anywhere in that space and time. Now, with that said, if you look to our latest example, which was Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, the very last announcement that was made was that TPS would be cut off for them, but we're going to give you 6 months before it's finally cut off. So in the instance that there is going to be one more extension, and it's the last extension, that announcement will be made with that caveat that, hey, guess what, this is it. So I'd like to think that because we didn't get that announcement with this latest designation that there's still wiggle room for folks to lobby and see if we could get an extension even further out. But indeed, it's 60 days prior to that you'll hear about it, or within 60 days, I should say.
Okay, thank you so much for that. There's another question. If an organization wants to join BAJI's efforts in support of Haitian TPS, who should we contact? Are there any upcoming days of actions we may join? Thank you for that question. So if you do want to send an email to BAJI to learn more about our efforts and engage more about what's going on, you could definitely visit our website, blackalliance.org. The general email is info@blackalliance.org as well if you have any questions that you need to have answered. Like I stated, we're going to be having a strategy call that's focused specifically on Haiti and Haitian TPS in early June, so we'll be announcing that as well. So if you sign up for our newsletter and our alerts, you'll be able to get that information as soon as we release it. And there was one more question. And this was for the legal folks. Do you have any information or work on the termination of TPS a few days ago for Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone? So I guess just an overview of what that termination now means for these nationals coming from who are from West Africa.
Well, I could speak to it, not unless Josh wants to chime in.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so when TPS is finalized, like I was saying earlier, it literally means that you no longer have that status. So not unless you were able to obtain another type of status in the interim, you go back to whatever it is that you had prior to. So if you were undocumented, you're going to be undocumented again. Now, many people ask, well, what does that mean? Does that mean ICE is going to come knock on my door and kick me out? So in a practical sense, no. ICE is not going to go door to door and round up all the individuals who have let their TPS lapse. There's just not enough manpower to do that. Now, the climate is a bit different now, so I can't speak to literally on the ground what enforcement may look like, but as a public policy, it wouldn't make sense for them to do that for all sorts of different reasons. However, if you end up crossing paths with an ICE officer any other way, if you're undocumented, you know, where prior to Trump's executive order dealing with internal enforcement of the law. Prior to that, if you were detained or picked up, there's a priority system, and if you were crime-free, had been here a while, you had significant roots and ties to your community, you could request what's called prosecutorial discretion, where the government would essentially choose to drop charges against you as far as immigration violations are concerned, and not really enforce your removal, just basically let you stay in the U.S. You wouldn't have any status, but you'd at least be able to stay. That priority system is no longer on the table, thanks to one of Trump's executive orders that deals with enforcement of the immigration laws. So in other words, if you have TPS, it expires, and you have no other route to legal status in the U.S. If and when you do cross paths with ICE and you're then detained and then placed in removal proceedings, absent any other options available to you in removal proceedings, you will be removed from the country. So again, now is the time to figure out what your options may be, and or if you were placed in removal proceedings, what your options could be, because there are a few options that are available to folks in proceedings that are not available to folks that are outside of removal proceedings. So again, you want to sit down with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, an attorney or an accredited legal service provider, to actually walk you through that, because once TPS is gone, you are going to be considered undocumented if you don't have any other route to legal status in the works.
Thank you so much for that answer. Thank you so much to our participants for speaking and providing this information to our community members. Once again, thank you to NILC, thank you to UndocuBlack Network, and many thanks coming from the Black Alliance for Just Immigration for all of us being able to come together. We will be sending out the recorded webinar within the next, I would say, past the holiday weekend, so aiming for next Tuesday. So please be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you all for your participation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.